Hello, I'm Daniel Bernard Roumain. I am the Dartmouth Roth Distinguished Visiting Scholar, and welcome to Who We Are with DBR. This is the first show of 2021, and it's really, really great to be here. We have a very special world premiere happening tonight. The title is 8 minutes and 46 seconds. And I have a special guest. As you know, on this show, we talk and we present and we have conversations about what's going on in our world, what's going on in your world, and can we talk about these things and experience these things, together. All right. So Tiffany Rea-Fisher is our guest tonight. She's an incredible dancer, choreographer, activist, author, arts administrator, and she's my friend. And we collaborated on a work that we are going to premiere tonight, the title of which is drawn from a horrific event in our American life. But before we get to what 8 minutes and 46 seconds is all about, let's take a moment and learn, understand, and celebrate the work of Tiffany Rea-Fisher in this wonderful introductory video that we have for you. So let's check it out together. Yeah. And we're back with Tiffany Rea-Fisher. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here, Daniel. Really excited.
Oh, wow. We're excited to have you. We really are. So as my good Haitian mother used to say to me, you're not really working if you got one job.
Amen.
Right? You do not have one job.
No, I think I don't. I feel like the through line is actually organizing. And I've had that epiphany early, like recently, but I was like, oh, like organizing the demonstrations, making pieces, being like the through line is just organizing, and how many different forms can that take? Which is really exciting because it opens up for me what my job can be.
Ah, I love that. The through line is organizing. Oh, well, you do it so well because I know you're working with so many different dance companies, so many in so many different genres.
Mm.
If you could help our audience understand just one of them, what moves you the most? What excites you the most? If you could only pick one job, I know you never would, but if you had to choose
Yeah.
one, which one would it be and why?
If I had to just pick one, it would definitely be being the artistic director of Elisa Monte Dance. And because one of the things that I really appreciate is being able to be an economic driver in this field. Like I was able to offer dancers contracts during COVID. I'm able to, have a paycheck, like my dancers receive a paycheck on the 15th and the 31st. Like I like being able to that. And I like being able to think about the structure that support arts versus like the arts can't support, it doesn't support itself. Like my pieces don't live in a vacuum. You
Yes.
need things that support that. So I like being able to be part of that and being able to shape what is supporting arts, especially in the US.
Oh, wow. Well, of course, Lise Monte being a preeminent American dancer and choreographer. And I think it's just wonderful that you're able to help an artist with that kind of vision in their vision. And,
Mm,
I feel the same way. I feel that art collaboration, I felt that in your own way, you were really able to, first of all, pull us together. And secondly, I feel that what you did in that work was so vital to this moment. So could we talk a little bit about 8 minutes and 46 seconds and
yeah,
I
let's do it.
and yeah, your take on it. Well, here's my take on it is that 8 minutes and 46 seconds is the amount of time that brother George Floyd was murdered and lynched by a white law enforcement officer. And we were witness to that.
Hmm.
And it was horrific. And in my business, 4 minutes and 33 seconds is another piece by another composer, but it's based on time.
Mm,
This piece to me is referential in that it is also based on time. It is also based on an American event, if you will,
hmm,
a tragic American event. But what you have done with it is something that I feel is necessary and needed and unabashedly about race and
mm,
rage.
hmm,
And ultimately, I think maybe about life and beyond life and a piece. Well,
hmm.
how do you see the piece, the work?
Yeah, I mean, I think I mean, part of what I do, and this is going to seem off right now, but part of what I do in my artistic practice is to center joy. And
Mm,
what I think is like when you look back at our history, meaning black folks' history in this country, is very easy to see just atrocity after atrocity after atrocity.
yes,
But for me, as much as I don't like to necessarily celebrate our resilience, it is undeniable. And I feel like that's what came up for me is that right before, there was that clip that went viral of his daughter saying, "My daddy's going to change the world," and he did. And he did.
amen,
We're living
amen.
in that new world right now. So I think what was really wonderful for me working on this piece is that I got to respond not only as an artist, but as a Black woman. I got to respond how
Yes,
I would respond because our response is not a monolithic response. So you got to respond as a Black man, musician, composer. I got to respond as a Black female
yes,
choreographer, dancer, and how those things came together. I think does a really good job of showing like those were two very different responses that I think complemented each other so well because it was
yes,
clear to me, and I know that our approaches were different, but it was so clear to me that I was like, this is going to fit because there needs to be enough room for multiple voices, so it's
yes.
going to work.
Yes, and I'll end here, and then we're going to have this world premiere of this very important piece. I do that because my
I know,
mother,
I'm like,
grew up
yeah,
Catholic, and anything that
twins, me
signifies.
too.
There you
Oh
go,
yeah,
there you
whole
go.
family.
There you go. So, I love the fact that I was able, as a Black man, to support you
I
as a
appreciate
Black
that.
woman. And it's an important distinction. It's really important to me. Our vice president is Kamala Harris and is arguably the most powerful woman of color in the world.
Yep.
And I love that. And I feel safe, and I felt safe with you, and I feel safe in our collaboration. And I'm overjoyed that the role of the violin and the electronics and all these other things that I did in the score are in the service of your dancing, if I may say respectfully, your Black body and movement, and in great vision for our hope for future. Yeah.
Thank you.
So with that, we're going to now have a world premiere. First time on this show, by the way, which
really?
I love it. First time. Yeah.
As if I wasn't nervous enough already.
No, I love it. And we get to share with everybody out there, and then the people who will be watching this in the future, of course. This is the world premiere of Tiffany Rea-Fisher and DBR's 8 minutes and 46 seconds.
I struggled with what to say today because it is difficult to add anything new to a story that feels as old as time. Black men here today, I love and support you. To my Black women here today, I love and support you. To everyone that came out today, we so appreciate and need your love and your respect. What I have found in this journey so far is that our story is not one of only grief, suffering, and pain, but also of hope, of joy, of resilience, of courage, and of swag. I believe artists to be the keepers of the culture, but I believe Black people are culture. I invite all of you to imagine a world where our Black bodies and our well-being are valued and loved the way this world loves Black culture. This concept feels far and currently unattainable to me. But that's exactly why we are here today, to get one step closer to this idea. And then another, and then another, and then another. This is why we are here. My name is Tiffany Rea-Fisher, daughter of Karen, daughter of Dorothy, daughter of Sarah, daughter of Elizabeth, daughter of Edmona Little, my great-great-grandmother, born on a plantation in Jackson, Mississippi in the 1800s. Choreographer, I check in with my dancers to make sure they are with me. So right now, I want to make sure you are with me. We are not to be feared.
We are not to be feared.
But we are to be respected.
But we are to be respected.
We are not to be feared, but we are to be respected.
We are not to be feared, but we are to be respected.
We are not to be feared, but we are to be respected.
We are not to be feared, but we are to be respected.
And we're back. And we're back. How are you feeling?
It's that I'm feeling lots of things. that work is by far the most personal thing I've ever made, ever. And so it was an interesting, I don't dance like in anymore. Like that's one of the jobs that had to kind of go to the side. Like I would guest every now and then when I have time, but it's been a long time since like I put the movement in my body, and that's where it was meant to be. Lots of time I'd put the movement in my body for it to go somewhere else. And so what was interesting about this is that I had about like 20 minutes because there was so much there, and it was very raw, and it was I was having a hard time. I was having a hard time getting down to it, right? Like the first couple of times when I was like playing with stuff, it was like I was dancing around what I wanted to say. I was dancing around like all of these things, but it was like, no, don't worry about the movement being pretty. Don't worry about the like, and I think also this was coming off of a place like this was the first time I was getting back in my body, coming off of PT, off of a foot surgery. So I really had felt like the floor had been literally pulled out from underneath me, not only from a social perspective, but as a dancer, when your body fails you, it feels like the biggest betrayal. Oh. So it was like, you gotta go, like you gotta just do it. And so I think that it feels still very just raw. And I think this is a good example of when you see me at the demonstration talking about at the demonstration that I helped organize, that energy and the effort that was put into that feels similarly to putting this piece together. Oh, wow. Right. It's speaking your truth and just like with nothing else. It's right. Clean. There's no fluff to it. I'm not trying to pander. I'm not like, this is it. You're about it. You're not about it. I make an I statement and we keep it moving. So it's a very, very personal I statement. So it's interesting to watch it as a viewer because it's a lived experience. Right.
I did not realize you organized that presumably Black Lives Matter protest or march. Wow, that's incredible. Thank you for sharing that. You also said something that was so telling, this, I'm paraphrasing, this notion as a dancer, when your body fails you, it feels like the biggest betrayal. Wow. Well, what I saw was beautiful movement, captivating, confident, real. For me as the composer, I played this piece 8 minutes and 46 seconds, probably a dozen times, over and over and over again. I never felt like I was doing justice to the man and the moment. Yeah. And it was frustrating. And I felt, I have to tell you, there were a couple of days, probably more than 12 times, where I felt like I'm going to have to tell Tiffany I can't do it. I just, I set up this notion of I'm going to improvise for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. I'll do it once, a pass.
Right.
And this went on for days, and what I settled on was actually da, 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 like 8. And then the middle section is 4/6. So I was able to start to really think about 8/4/6, almost mathematically, just to take the passion out of it. Yeah. And of course, the minute I did that, I was free.
Yes.
And it was, there's something about him in that moment, which I hope to never be in, or anyone to ever be in, where he's crying out for mama. Crying out for mom. And I want to think in my mind's eye that there was a point where at that transition where he's free of his body, that betrayal is met or resolved. Yeah. Yeah. And he's free of his body and he's with his mother, with mama, and he's perhaps, who knows, but perhaps there's a moment where he's with his daughter and everything for him, he's at peace.
Mm-hmm.
Use that piece.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought about that too as a way to begin.
Yeah.
And the only other thing I can say, Tiffany, is I had to set up the camera. There was this whole thing that nobody needs to know. It was just I made a video for you.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to set up the camera, and I'm playing. And at the end of it, I hit my little pose, and then I come over and I turn off the camera, and then of course I have to send you just the music. And I just want to share this with you. So, that whole video was like 10 minutes long because you're starting it, you're stopping it.
Right,
it's clumsy, right? But when I cut it down, and I don't know how to do this, I'm still learning, proudly. When I trimmed it down to just the music, I still can't believe it. And the last note is a flourish, and there's a little bit of reverb. When I trimmed it down to the very beginning of the piece, the very last note, the silence, the air after the reverb, I just did it. When I looked at it, it was 8 minutes and 46 seconds.
Yeah, it was meant to be. And I think that's I've had a lot of conversations recently around fear, like the fear that you're not going to live up to something, that our work's not going to do him justice, the fear of and you just have to do it. And when it's meant to be, it will land like a ton of bricks. And that was the thing. And I was like, you know what? I preach fearlessness, and every day that we go through this world and the skin and the bodies that we do, we showcase that. Yes. And so it's now time to do that and bring that fearlessness in our arts. And our response doesn't have to be perfect, but it does need to be ours, and it needs to be strong. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we can't shy away from ourselves. We have to let whatever that is land. And then whatever else is going to happen. But like moving forward with that confidence to be like, look, we're going to say something about this. Yes. We're going to respond to this because we have a right to at least respond to this. I'm glad that I got to do that in tandem with you, because it's lonely having to continue to respond to things by yourself.
It is lonely. It is lonely, and to mourn alone, and to weep alone, and to try to find joy alone. This is a place of captivity, but it is also a place of creation. I get that, and I feel much less alone now. And I'm looking in the chat, and Jenna, I'm with you. Chills, complete chills. KBK 5059, you are respected! Exclamation point. Lindsley, thank you both. Sarah, thank you. Erica, Michael, Matthew Fisher, bravo! Exclamation point! Exclamation point! Exclamation point! Exclamation point! So, if you have questions or comments, right? Can we move? Now is the time. If you have questions or comments, please get them in, because your time is precious and our time is shared. But I want to open it up. Just first of all, thank you for all the comments that we're seeing. We appreciate the love and respect for. I always say, brother George Floyd, and I'd like to think that you were something that you said that reminded me. Maybe as artists, we can do two things when politicians and pundits fail us. BIPOC artists have always led the way. And I think the second thing is that I think we are uniquely qualified as BIPOC artists, to take the worst of humanity and reimagine it into what could have been the best of us and the most joyous and the most beautiful. So that helps me feel not as alone too,
Yeah, I think that is the work. And it's not about necessarily turning the other cheek or saying like, that's okay. Being like, no, this is definitely not okay. And let me show you in a multitude of ways of how it's not okay. Right. So it's like, I can say it, I can organize it, I can dance it. You can play it. Like, we're going to show you on every level.
That's right.
Because you can hear the hurt in the violin. You can hear the screams. You can hear the breath. Right? Like you can feel the moments. And I think one of the things that I went back and forth on is like that first time that I walk outside, and especially into the light, is like very satisfying, and it's quite hopeful. And what I was going for, like what I really like, that comes back and comes back and comes back, because there is that moment that it's like, I remember, right, like after this, after George Floyd, there was like a huge galvanizing movement, global. And it was like something was going to change. Then a month later, we're back where we were.
That's right.
Right. So like
moral amnesia.
Yes. So I wanted to have this kind of cyclical thing happening, but each time that I'm pulled back, like I'm in a different place, right? Like something has shifted. We've moved forward. It's still moving. Like it's moving like this, but it's moving like this while like
That's right. That's right.
So
And
being able to see that and reflect that.
that's right. And along those lines, Sherry has a question for you. Sherry's asking, Tiffany, you said something about the dominant culture valuing Black culture, but not Black bodies.
Oh yeah.
What can we do to transform that? Great question.
That is a great question. And I don't know that I know the answer. I think acknowledging how much the world consumes us.
Acknowledgement.
But that we have to have a hashtag that says that we matter. Not that we built this, not that just that we matter, and please don't shoot me while I'm out on my job. Right? Acknowledging that's where we are. But yet everybody wants to twerk, everybody wants to rap, everyone wants to have our street cred, everyone wants to have our look, our hair, our this, our that. Right? But when it comes to our actual safety, our actual protection.
That's right. Acknowledgement. Well, I have 4 A's. Acknowledgement, acceptance, apology, action. So you're absolutely right. I think if you are not a BIPOC person, acknowledge the fact that BIPOC people are suffering and navigating, and we've always been, and we still shine. And accept the fact that by acknowledging this truth, this American truth, you are actually then part of a process that should lead to apology. Apology is literal, but it's also every day. It's every day, y'all, right? Especially if you're leading an organization, if you work in an office space, if you are Zooming with BIPOC people, think about how you can start to navigate your own expression of apology. And only then can that lead to action, as you were saying, to actual policy, equitable policy changes, personal, equitable policy changes. Oh, don't get me started. Let me stop because we have more questions. I'm feeling real comfortable with you, Tiffany. All right. Let's see. Kai. I'm sorry. K-A-J. Kai Johnson? I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it incorrectly. Daniel, Tiffany, do you see yourselves working together in the future on a project, directly or indirectly? I'm going to say Kaj. Oh, I don't know. K-A-J?
I don't know. Kaj sounds, beautiful.
Okay. Kaj. I'm sorry, Kaj. I'm butchering it, but your question is profound. Do you see yourselves, you and I, working together in the future on a project, and he says it's directly or indirectly. I don't know if it's he or she, directly or indirectly.
Like a both and is how I feel about it. I don't know how you're feeling about it,
I'm
Daniel.
totally feeling about it. This is the first of many, but
yes. This project in particular feels like it's just it's not even the tip of the iceberg. It's like we saw the iceberg and now we're approaching, but I think there's much more to be mined here.
Yeah, I agree. Alyssa is asking Tiffany, what was it like having to not only call upon yourself as a dancer coming from an injury, but also ask it to physically move into a place of deep trauma? Any discoveries along the way?
Yeah, it was not easy. It was a very painful process, but I think it was a necessary process because you have to move through the pain. And one of the things that is important to acknowledge is that every moment is temporary, right? Like every moment is temporary. So in this moment where I was feeling insecure, when I felt this anxiety, again, it's not going to be good enough. It's not going to be fast enough. It's not going to feel good in my body. Actually allowing movement to be part of the solution and not just look at movement as the problem was very helpful. And I felt such a sense of relief, but also pride, because I was like, I don't know what else could have made me do that. I was not trying to get on stage. I was not trying to push through. I was trying to get through the day without breaking down every second of every day. And since March, that has been what I've been trying to do. So to open that wound, kick the wound wide open, pour salt all over it, and a dash of vinegar was not what I was trying to do. But when Dartmouth came to us with this, I think both of us felt like we got to say something. We cannot let this opportunity go. And so it's now's the time. It's now or never. Now's the time.
Yes.
So I'm very grateful to have had the opportunity, because this piece it's not like I was sitting on this. This was made for this, in response to Daniel, in response to George Floyd, because this opened up to be seen in 2 dimensions as a film somewhere else. So I think at the end of the day, it ended up being what I needed from a spiritual, physical, emotional place, because it helped me break through things that my just pushing everything down and getting through the day to be there for others was not gonna work.
Yes. We have a few more questions, and we're going to rifle through. We're going to do what we call the speed round.
Okay.
They're really powerful. So first of all, we got it right the first time. Kai Johnson. So thank you for that, Kai. Mike Klein is asking, Resma Manikem talks about somatic abolitionism. How is it different to deal with trauma? How is it different to deal with trauma, the trauma of George Floyd's murder through dance, differently than thinking through it and processing it intellectually? How is it different to deal with the trauma of George Floyd's murder through dance? How is that different than thinking through it and processing it solely intellectually?
I think processing it through dance allowed for freedom that I wasn't able to find physically, because this is my art form. This is where I feel most comfortable. It's where I feel most free. And earlier, Daniel, you had talked about, it's like that moment when the spirit leaves the body. There's some type of freedom. There's a like a weight shift or and I think being able to embody that, I could feel it made it much more cathartic. Keeping it in here, I knew what I wanted to do, and I think it helped me process the trauma, but the physicality gave me freedom to go deeper even into the subject matter.
Yes. Lindsay's asking, can you talk a little bit how you filmed it? As I was watching, I wondered if some of the locations where you filmed outdoors in front of an empty audience held additional context.
Yes. So I filmed this at the Lake Placid Center for the Arts, which is where I am right now. And we had Modi Margolin, who's the person who I work with. Everything that I do that's filmed, like, Modi's done it. Like, that's my ace. We've rode together for many years, and he had cameras on his person, and we're running around and he was on me and up and downstairs and all over the place. But yeah, I mean, I wanted it to also be clear that we're working a pandemic within a pandemic. And so being able to show an empty space, like, that theater has been my home theater for 16 years, and it's usually filled. It has energy, it has life, and it is dead. Like, when I went in, I was like, oof. Like, theaters, the architecture of a theater is meant to gather. So when it's empty, it feels very different. It feels very different. But also the fact that there's that entrance that leads you right to outside, it was like I could breathe. We were also doing this during a pandemic. So even though I didn't have my mask on for this, because we were separated and we had the filters and everything, like, it also just felt like the subject matter also felt suffocating, and brought back that, like, there wasn't an audience to share this with, or the audience that I was going to share this with, I wasn't going to have a physical connection for it. It was going to have this kind of, this feeling of, like, you don't know where it's going to land. It's not concrete. And so I wanted to also, like, respond as an artist, and that's my art form, that stage, that proscenium, that is my home base. And so to look at it from both places, to be like that, it's empty up here unless I'm filling it. It's empty in the house unless I'm filling it. And when I go outside, there's everyone's inside, right? Like, it's empty.
It's empty.
And I think that void also, like, he left a void.
He left a void, yeah.
He left a void. So we had to show the void.
Well, we've got one more question, and then usually I would play for the guest, or we would somehow improvise with one another, but we did that on a big level. We did on a big level, and of course we can revisit it. But we've got one more question, and then we're going to have a special outro. And I just want to thank Kai and Seth and Michael and Matthew and Alyssa and Danny GTV. See you, Danny G. And KBK 5059. Maya Lynn is asking this question. What was the process for recording the music? When we are able to perform live again, would this be a work that would be able to be performed live? And if so, how would that change the performance? Well, great question. The recording was pretty easy. I mean, I set up my rig, I set up my computers and my pedals. I actually mic'd the amp. I don't usually do that, but I mic'd the amp. I recorded my part. Again, took a couple of days. Then I went back and I added a couple of synth parts. As you're hearing some synthesizer in there. And then edited it all together. And not that hard once I had all the component parts in there. To do it live, I would have the computer parts, the synthesizer parts played back live. And then I'd have to learn the violin part. Very difficult. So I could do it. Not fun, but I would learn it. And actually it'd be much easier because the way I would do it, I did a lot of work with dance. I do a lot of work accompanying dance companies. So because of your choreography, I would learn it looking at you dance, watching you dance. So it'd be much easier in that sense. So I think we could, in fact, that's a great suggestion, Maya Lynn. I think we should do it live once we're back to a new, our new spaces, or hopefully our new places that are rich with equity and love and respect.
Right.
I'd love to do this piece with you live. Yeah.
That would be.
It's great.
That would be amazing.
It would be amazing. And with that, we're going to, I hate to say goodbye, but we got to try to end in a certain way. Tiffany, you lift me up. You do lift every voice. Know that your work has meaning and resonance. And it has so much profound love and community. And as you said, this notion of organizing, bringing us together. I just want to thank you so much profoundly for being here with us tonight on our little show, our little corner and space of the world. And I hope you'll come back.
Absolutely. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you so much. And for all of you, those of you who are out there, stay in touch. Check out Tiffany Rea-Fisher and the work that she's doing in the community and beyond. Wonderful author, writer. Her words are just as important as her movement. And they both will hopefully motivate all of us to do and hopefully become something better.